Well done, my good and faithful apprentice. My faith in you is restored.
Who would have guessed that the girl Rey would be so slim and fragile-looking? She looked lost in the throne room, dwarfed by both her surroundings and the galaxy-shaking events for which she was the unlikely and unwitting fulcrum. But Snoke knew appearances were often deceiving, sometimes fatally so. Underestimating Rey had nearly cost Kylo Ren his life, after all.
Young Rey. Welcome.
Snoke waved, and Rey's binders parted and clattered to the floor. A trivial demonstration of the Force. He noted approvingly that it no longer awed her.
Come closer, child,
he said. She refused him, and Snoke reached out with the Force, whose power had waxed even as his body had withered. To his delight, he found Rey strong, even more powerful than he'd imagined. Strong with the Force, and with the kind of towering will that made her able to command it. She would have made a fitting instrument for Snoke, if he'd still had need of such crude tools.
So much strength. Darkness rises, and light to meet it. I warned my young apprentice that as he grew stronger, his equal in the light would rise. Closer, I said.
He used the Force to compel her body, yanking her centimeter by slow, unwilling centimeter toward him across the polished floor.
You underestimate Skywalker, and Ben Solo, and me. It will be your downfall.
Oh, have you seen something? A weakness in my apprentice. Is that why you came? Young fool,
Snoke said.
It was I who bridged your minds. I stoked Ren's conflicted soul. I knew he was not strong enough to hide it from you. And you were not wise enough to resist the bait.
Kylo Ren had remained kneeling in the throne room as Snoke tormented Rey, his face an impassive mask. Now he looked up in surprise, his eyes locked on his master. Snoke ignored the pleading look on Kylo's face, just as he ignored the sickly waves of pain and confusion that rolled out from him into the Force. But he did not ignore the fear in Rey's face. Her shock at learning Snoke's role in forging her connection with Kylo had disrupted what meager defenses she had. With her concentration broken, Snoke dragged her to his throne, her face paralyzed just centimeters from his own. Holding Rey pinned there, Snoke considered Kylo. He had seen his apprentice's enormous potential when he was still a child. The latent power of the Skywalker bloodline was impossible to miss. And he had also seen how to exploit the boy's feelings of inadequacy and abandonment, and his mother's guilt and desperation to contain the darkness within her child. And indeed, Ben Solo had performed the role Snoke had envisioned for him perfectly. But what role the boy would play in the future was less clear. He called himself Kylo Ren. But as with so much else about him, that was more wish fulfillment than reality. He had never escaped being Ben Solo, or learned to resist the pull of the weak and pathetic light, or had the strength to excise the sentimental streak that had destroyed his legendary grandfather. And then there was his most glaring failure of all. His inability or unwillingness to use his power to redirect the course of his own destiny. Snoke had once seen Kylo as the perfect student, a creation of both dark and light, with the strength of both aspects of the Force. But perhaps he had been wrong about that. Perhaps Kylo was an unstable combination of those aspects' weaknesses, a flawed vessel that could never be filled. Snoke pushed the thought away. There would be time to consider Kylo's fate later, after the Resistance and the Last Jedi had been destroyed. And both of those goals were now at hand. Snoke turned his attention back to Rey, still gamely struggling to fight something she had no hope of contending with, let alone defeating. It was a pity about the girl, whose unexpectedly strong powers intrigued him. But her role in the story was just about over. She had one final service to perform, after which she could be discarded.
Now, you will give me Skywalker. Then I will kill you with the cruelest stroke.
No.
Yes.
He raised his hand and hurled her across the room with the Force, then held her in the air as he smashed aside her resistance and began rifling through her thoughts, her memories, making them his to do with as he would. The skin at Rey's temples pulsed in waves, a physical manifestation of the violent intrusion into her mind.
Give me everything.
Rey thrashed in pain, screaming and seeking an escape that didn't exist. Kylo could feel Rey's pain and panic, a bright roar in the Force that overwhelmed all else, even the dark presence of Snoke. But he did not intervene. Instead, he lowered his head and awaited his master's command. He said, voice oozing satisfaction.
I did not expect Skywalker to be so wise. Such spunk. Soon they will all be gone. For you, all is lost.
This time, her target wasn't Skywalker's weapon, but Kylo Ren's. This unexpected, desperate act caught Snoke's apprentice by surprise. His lightsaber flew off his belt and across the room, the Praetorians tensing at its flight.
Oh, it's still that fiery spit of hope. You have the spirit of a true Jedi.
Snoke used the Force to fling her across the floor. She landed hard, groaning, and the lightsaber clattered and spun across the floor to land at Kylo's feet, spinning like a top.
And because of that, you must die.
Snoke said, turning his cobalt blue eyes to Kylo. His apprentice had barely moved since delivering Rey, but his emotions had been simmering when he arrived and begun to boil when Snoke revealed that he was the creator of Kylo's mysterious connection with Rey. Or at least they had boiled until a moment ago. Then the tumult had ceased, replaced by an eerie calm and focus. Snoke had been surprised, but pleased. Master and apprentice had work ahead of them, and Kylo, that endlessly conflicted mixture of light and dark, had finally found himself.
My worthy apprentice, son of darkness, heir apparent to Lord Vader,
Snoke said, knowing how Kylo had yearned for such praise.
Where there was conflict, I now sense resolve. Where there was weakness, strength. Complete your training and fulfill your destiny.
Kylo rose, his unlit lightsaber in one hand and the other held carelessly behind his back. Step by step, he advanced on the helpless Rey. Snoke used the Force to hoist her to her knees, arms pinned back. He eyed Kylo, wary of some new retreat into sentiment, into the weakness that had held him back for so long. But Kylo's face was cold, and his eyes were determined. Rey called out desperately. Kylo stopped once Rey was within reach of his blade.
I know what I have to do,
he said, his voice emotionless. Snoke laughed. Bridging their minds had been a gamble, one he had weighed for some time. But it had worked even better than Snoke had hoped. Rey's eyes no longer burned. They were pleading. But Kylo wouldn't even look at her. Snoke could feel that his attention was focused on what he had resolved to do.
You think you can turn him? Pathetic child. I cannot be betrayed. I cannot be beaten. I see his mind. I see his every intent. Yes.
The Supreme Leader closed his eyes. This was a drama best appreciated through the Force, not the crude approximation offered by mundane senses.
I see him turning the lightsaber to strike true. And now, foolish child, he ignites it and kills his true enemy.
It was the last thing the Supreme Leader ever said. Kylo had indeed rotated the hilt of his lightsaber so it was pointed directly at Rey's chest. Even as he did so, Luke's lightsaber was rotating silently on the armrest of Snoke's throne, unnoticed by either the Supreme Leader or the Praetorian Guards. When Kylo's fingers twitched behind his back, the blue energy blade of Luke's lightsaber sprang into existence, spearing Snoke. Then, with a flick of Kylo's hand, the blade carved through his master, cutting him in two, and flew through the air into Rey's hand. Kylo and Rey had a moment to lock eyes. Then the crimson-armored Praetorians were blurs of motion. 4 sets of pairs, each pair brandishing the same variant of deadly edged weapons. It was too late to save their master, but they could at least avenge his murder. Back to back, Kylo and Rey received their charge.